Okay. Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu-militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Dwapayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Tadavo Vinedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatasmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we are going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Parapadma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Asto Tarsata Sri Simad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Parapadma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Asto Tarsata Sri Simad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So yesterday was the disappearance day of Sri Rupa Gosvami Pad, and we had some, and also Guridas Pandit and Govinda Das, and we had some discussion. But on these days, you can talk more than one day or 30 minutes in a class. So I wanted to read this lecture given by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami in 2005 in Vrindavan on that day. And this was done at the Samadhi of Sri Rupa Goswami at the Radha Damodar Mandir, and it used to look a lot different. Now everything is all closed in. It's like an interior building, like a museum or something. It's got walls, got a roof, everything. And I suppose in some way, I mean, now there's no monkeys, but I don't know, you kind of lose the sense of what it might have been like back in the day. And there are photos of our Srila Prabhupada when he first came back to India and was with his disciples and gave a series of lectures at that place. And it was still very undeveloped. Even in the rooms that he had stayed in also very undeveloped and even you could say deteriorating. But nevertheless, there was a certain sweetness in all of that. He wrote a letter to Srila Narayana Maharaj one time about now he's in America and all these disciples are serving him, no less than, I forget what he said, 3 or 6 disciples at a time, very opulent foodstuffs, nice rooms, all of this. And he said, still I am missing Vrindavan and the torn quilt of the Gaudiya Math, the simple, very simple living, torn quilt. And when you live like that, there's no artifice, there's no distraction. The less you have, the less you worry, right? If you're in a life that's fulfilled in another way. If you're only fulfilled through material acquisition and material accomplishment, then of course you're going to be dissatisfied. But when you're in a devotional environment and really immersed in it, then the simpler you live, the happier you are. Nothing to worry about. Right? So this lecture is given when it was all open air. There's even still a tree there. When I first went in 76, there are trees in that courtyard as well. Old trees, I don't know how far back they went, but now there are no trees anymore. They're all cut down. So I'm going to read this. So August of 2005. So it begins like saying, let me make sure this is set up right. Yep, that's set up right. Okay. So, Srila Narayana Maharaj begins. Today, we are very fortunate. Wait, one more thing. Excuse me. Got to make sure that this stays on. There we go. All right. Sorry. Today we are very fortunate to be at the Bhajan Stali and Samadhi Stali. Stali means place, right? Of Srila Rupa Gosvami here at Sri Radha Damodar Temple. Sri Rupa Gosvami is the life of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. He is the crest jewel of the Rasik Bhaktas. And Rasik means, right, a devotee who's tasting transcendental melodies. Sometimes we throw that word around a little loosely, but it's a very high word. It means somebody who, even not just in Bhav, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in Madhurya Kadambini that you can be on the stage of Bhav and actually practicing very sincerely, and it may take many lifetimes before you become genuinely Rasik. Rasik meaning being able to actually enter into the service and relationships of Radha and Krishna and their and the Braja Devis, and actually taste that transcendental exchange in that special way. So the Rasik devotees, Rasik Bhaktas, very exclusive club. So he is the crest jewel of the Rasik Bhaktas, and it is he alone who fulfills the Manobishtam, the heartfelt desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know that verse, right? Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam. When will Rupa Goswami Pad, who is the object of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who understood his deepest desires, give me his mercy? That's a very amazing thing. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam, he understood. And there are many stories about that. Let's see how this develops, this lecture. We have performed our worship of Srila Rupa Goswami, and we pray to his lotus feet that his conceptions may manifest in our heart. We pray that the manner in which he served Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Sri Sri Radha Krishna may also manifest in our heart. So Srila Gurudev is informing us how to cultivate our mentality in our daily sadhana. Right? Whatever we're doing, if we're gardening, mowing the lawn, right, cooking in the kitchen, chanting our rounds, whatever kind of seva, there's ample seva, always in our heart trying to realize the purpose of that. Because sadhana is one of three elements. We have to have the proper practice, but we also have to understand our goal, and we have to be informed and realized in our sambandha, our relationship with Sri Guru, with Radha and Krishna, with their associates. Who are we? What is this material world? What is the spiritual realm? What is the relationship? All of these things together. And so performing our worship, praying that I want, you've come to give this incredible gift, this incredible realization and mercy. Please awaken that in my heart so I can serve and assist the servants of you in this extraordinary way and give pleasure to my gurus and to Radha and Krishna. Please let me be like that. If Srila Rupa Goswami had not come to this world, the flood of mercy created by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the gift of service to Srimati Radhika, would have stopped when the Lord disappeared. Sri Krishna came to this world as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for two reasons. The first reason was to taste his three unfulfilled desires, which we discussed yesterday, right? And the second reason was to distribute to the world Ragmarg, the path of spontaneous devotion, by following in the wake, or the footsteps, of Sri Krishna's Vrindavan associates, and especially to distribute the service of Srimati Radhika. For this purpose, Sriman Mahaprabhu manifested himself in the heart of Sri Rupa Goswami and inspired him to write all his transcendental literatures, especially Vidagdha Madhav and later Ujjvala Nilamani and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Right? So this is the special role of Rupa Goswami and an insight into the extraordinary empowerment and mercy which he has displayed and given. The most secret and sacred heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the most secret and sacred pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna, unknown to virtually everyone in the spiritual world except a small confidential group, right? Even Uddhava was astonished, bewildered, and unable to completely comprehend the nature of the love between Krishna, Radhika, and the gopis. So what to speak of others? In the Vaikuntha realm, they may have some knowledge that this is going on, but no way to taste and understand this. Only by entering into the service of those who are serving in the line of Rupa Goswami does this come. And that is why Srila Prabhupada and all of our acharyas have called us in our line Rupanugas. Right? We've not come, Rupa Goswami, of course in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives information on the service of in Vrindavan of all the rasas, right? All of that is there. Understanding of Sakya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, certainly. But really, understanding of those rasas so that in comparison, when we study Shringar Ras, Madhurya Ras, you begin to get an inkling of how it is indeed topmost and so glorious, right? And that is really what he came to do, right? Ujjala Unnata, Rasa Bhakti Sriyam, Mahaprabhu, he came to give that understanding of the topmost opportunity for the living entity to enter into the service of Srimati Radharani. Sometime after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed from this world, people hated Parakiya Ras, the unwedded love between Radha and Krishna. They had a bad idea about it. Even other sampradayas, like the Sri Sampradaya of Srila Ramanujacharya and also the Nimbarka Sampradaya, were against the worship of Radha Krishna to such a degree that they separated the deity of Radha from the deity of Govinda in Jayapur. We know that pastime. Baladev Vidyabhusan, on the order of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, went down to reestablish this conception and show it as topmost. Defeated these other sampradayas in discussion and debate of the scripture and revealed the topmost glory of Srimati Radhika. Srila Rupa Goswami established the true conception of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his books. He especially used the Srimad Bhagavatam as evidence to establish that Parakiya Ras is not only bona fide, but it is the highest devotion. He established this truth in such a strong way that all the other sampradayas had to bow their heads and accept it. They may not worship in this way, but they cannot reject it. It's okay. People can worship in any way they have attraction. This is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that people have all kinds of other moods, other rasas. The worship of the Lord in his different forms, right? Different incarnations. And even in the worship of Krishna, there are different gradations. And Krishna's Kaviraj says that every devotee is completely satisfied and happy in their own form of worship. And when you think about it, I mean, a heart completely free from all material attraction, any separate interest, who is worshiping Lord Narayan, that's very glorious in Vaikuntha, right? Very glorious, exalted personalities. And throughout the history of the world, most of the sampradayas, most of the great personalities were in that mood. And we study their character, their history, their activities, extraordinary personalities, right? So why would you condemn that? You can't. But the higher you go, and this is what Brihad Bhagavatamrita is all about, by Sanatana Goswami, to study the gradations of devotion, to study the gradations of service to the different avatars, different incarnations, even the different realms of the spiritual world, culminating in Vrindavan. Right? So, what would have happened if Srila Rupa Goswami had not appeared in this world? The Braj Prem, the Prem of the Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and especially the Prem of the Gopis, was contained in a storehouse. There are so many types of Gopi Bhav, namely Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, and Mahabhav. All these definitions were given by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. And these are the gradations in the development, increasing intensity of prem. Right? Sneha is this deeply developed affection and attachment. And Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, it becomes thicker and more condensed and more astonishing. Right? And nobody could have understood that. Rupa Goswami, however, has delineated and broken that down, which then gives evidence, my goodness, before him, who had ever discussed prem in this way? No one had that conception. The Paribhas Sutra, meaning the definition aphorism of Srimad Bhagavatam, contains its essence. Ete chanksa kalak pungsa krishnastu bhagavan swayam. This is at the end of the third chapter, where prior to that verse, different incarnations are described, the chief ones that we know about. And then after that, all of the above-mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So, moreover, Srila Rupa Goswami showed us how to obtain that Supreme Lord of all by giving definitions for all the stages of devotion to him. What is Sneha? What is Man? What is Pranaya? What is Rag? What is Anurag? What is Bhav? What is Modan Bhav? What is Madanakya Mahabhav? He gave definitions for Shraddha, firm faith, Nishta, steadiness, Ruchi, taste, Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, and Bhav Bhakti, transcendental emotions. And he manifested the definition of sadhana bhakti. So at the end of this article, there's a small definition of Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, etc. And if you want to get more definition of all these things, a good place to look is the Bhajan Hasya of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In the back, there's a nice glossary, and you can look and see these definitions. So this verse, which is quoted from Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, describing sadhana bhakti, Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasa sadhanabhida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. When transcendental devotional service by which love for Krishna is attained is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service in practice. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice. Okay, so that's chapter 22, verse 105. Now, Gurdjieff's going to say something very interesting. Srila Rupa Goswami explained that sadhana, he means real sadhana, is only sadhana when our goal is the attainment of bhav bhakti. Right? That has to be clear. Then it can be called sadhana bhakti, otherwise not. Otherwise, one's practice is called sadhana abhas, a shadow or a semblance of devotional practice. Rupa Goswami gave us the definitions of prema, and he showed the entire world the nature of Srimati Radharani's attraction to Krishna. He showed the world how we can be attracted to Krishna and to Radha. He taught the identity of Radha Krishna and also of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, by the way, this lecture is in the archives of purebhakti.com. If you go to the Vaishnav calendar of purebhakti.com and you go to Rupa Goswami Disappearance Day, it's in red, and if you click on it, you come to this different group of lectures, and that's how you get to this. So what he's saying, and this is also explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you've read that book, what's the title of it? Bhakti Tattva Vivek, right? A study of Bhakti Tattva. And he describes bhakti and all the different abhas, or things leading up to bhakti, right? And bhakti abhas means that you're not on the level of Shuddha bhakti, right? But it's getting there. And so in the beginning, we perform the activities of sadhana, right? And we have the conception of what we're looking for, but we also have many other desires mixed with our bhakti. Most people that practice bhakti, my lowly self included, can't help but be aware of other desires that we have while we perform our bhakti. As long as it's like that, it's an abhas, a shadow. So he's saying that real sadhana begins when you come into the stage of bhav, right? Because then you're awakening your actual identity and awakening the ability to serve internally in these pastimes, and your goal is clear and unmixed, right? So prior to that, before understanding your actual identity, it's still not that real level of sadhana bhas. Not that it should be disregarded or disrespected, it's just a stage, just how it is, right? So sometimes we use the idea of bhakti very broadly and very loosely, but you should know that real bhakti means that, right? In other words, performing the limbs of bhakti when you are on that very high stage. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhanabhida. When devotional service executed, these activities of the senses, exclusively for the purpose of bhav. That's your goal, right? And that identity, that devotion, it exists in the heart. Nitya, siddhasya bhavasya, but it's dormant, it's not awakened. And when by that kind of sadhana, that bhav begins to awaken, and if you read Madhurya Kadambini, and you can get illumination in Jaiva Dharma and other books, you see how even in the stage of bhav, there are gradations, right? Development. Jaiva Dharma shows that in the practices of Vijay Kumar, for instance. So then he quotes, Srila Gurudev quotes, after saying he taught the identity of Radha Krishna and also of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when you're doing that sadhana, when you're actually realized in that identity. And of course that increases even above, but that. So, Anarpita chidam charat kuranaya avatirna kalo samarpayitam unata ujjvala rasam swabhakti striyam hari purata sundarajiti kadamba sandipita sadar hridaya kandares puratu va shachinandanaha. This is one of the most beautiful verses, so poetic. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, be transcendentally situated within the core of your heart, or with the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. And when it says heart, doesn't mean that foop, 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 not that heart. The heart of your soul, the very essence, the innermost chambers of your very being. May that son of Srimati Shachi. Why the son of Srimati Shachi Devi? Because Krishna, Mahaprabhu, they take great happiness in being identified in their relationship with their devotees. Right? So, the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, there can be no doubt who that is. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. That's from the 4th verse of the Adi Lila. And it was originally in the Vidagdha Madhav of Rupa Goswami. Right? What does it mean, never offered before? Because Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma, Mahaprabhu appears once in a day of Brahma. So never in this day of Brahma. Right? Because after Lord Brahma's day, then he takes rest and the universe becomes dormant, sleepy. Everybody goes to sleep. And the higher planets, the very topmost planets of the yogis, they may be there, but nothing's going on everywhere else. It's either flooded or burnt up, and then Lord Brahma wakes up and remanifests. All of that comes back to life. So, who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Radha Bhav Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam. He is Sri Krishna, covered by the complexion and the bhav of Srimati Radhika. He came to distribute her service in this world. Who described the identity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did not, and Sri Ramananda Roy did not. All knew, but when Sri Ramananda Roy began to explain his identity, Mahaprabhu covered his mouth. There's that portion in the latter part of the Roy Ramananda Samvad when he's asking Ramananda Roy to elaborate even more on his Prem Vaichitya and other truths. He when he begins to recite and sing beautiful verses, Mahaprabhu covers his mouth. Right? Not now. Not now. So Ramananda Roy, he did not. Only Rupa Goswami could completely describe it. All others were checked, but Rupa Goswami could not be checked. Mahaprabhu chose him to reveal himself to the world. Right, and that's also in the beginning of that 19th chapter. We cited that yesterday, where it said that just as Lord Brahma was inspired from within the heart by the Lord and given all knowledge of Vedic literature and empowered to deliver it to the world, to the universe, similarly, Rupa Goswami was inspired in the same way within the heart of Mahaprabhu. And remember that beautiful story of the Rath Yatra. Were we here for Rath Yatra, or was I for Rath Yatra? Not here. Was I here? I don't know. No, I guess I was in Oregon. I don't know. When you talk and you don't remember where you are. So, during the Rath Yatra. Oh, Badger. Yeah, it was Badger. That's right. Mahaprabhu is singing this verse, this song, which people thought was a mundane love song, about a lover recounting the times prior to her marriage under different conditions when she and her lover could meet secretly and alone, and the special feeling they had, right? And it evoked in him a very special internal mood which no one could understand. But Rupa Goswami was in the parade. He heard him singing this and he understood. And then while living on the beach in Puri, he was living in a hut next to Haridas Thakur, and he was writing. And one verse, he wrote this verse. And one day Mahaprabhu came to visit him. After going to the temple, he would go to visit Rupa and Haridas. And they weren't there, but he saw this verse that Sri Rupa had placed in the thatched roof while he went to bathe. And he pulled it out and read it, and he was astonished. And he turned to Sri Damodar, how has this boy understood my mind? Nobody understands my deep internal sentiments. How has he understood it? And Sri Damodar said, oh, because you have inspired him. Only by that could he have understood that. Sri Damodar understood, but Rupa not only understood it, but he explained it in such beautiful poetry. So, Mahaprabhu also chose him to distribute the service of Srimati Radhika to the world. Rupa Goswami had a special mood. And those who follow in his footsteps are called Rupanugas. All Rupanugas are Raganugas, but not all followers on the path of Raganuga are Rupanugas. Raganuga means the path of spontaneous devotion. Devotion not constrained by the rules and regulations, right? In Vaikuntha, the service is done in a very strict, formal way, right? In Braj, it's done spontaneously, inspired by one's attraction and internal inspiration to make Krishna happy in this way, make him happy in that way, right? Which seems to defy the scripture. Who in Vaikuntha would understand Mother Jashoda tying up Krishna and preventing him to do whatever it was he wanted to do? How can you constrain the Lord or oppose his desire? Impossible in Vaikuntha. Everything you do there is based on formality. But in Braj, the cowherd boys, they'll tease Krishna, they'll appear to make him unhappy, they'll do things like that, they'll wrestle with him, defeat him. But all this is done in this deep internal mood of giving him happiness as an ordinary boy, right? Or as my son, as my friend, right? But even higher than that is the internal mood of pleasing Krishna without any constraint as a servant of Srimati Radhika, because Radhika understands Krishna's moods, Krishna's desires in a way that Mother Jashoda or anyone else cannot understand. They can understand how to fulfill Krishna's deepest moods of calm. In other words, to enjoy the sweetest, loving pastimes with the most beautiful Brajadevi damsels. And their entire existence is meant to fulfill his desire for loving exchange, and everything they do creates infinite varieties of pastimes and loving moods, even though they may sometimes oppose him, like they may thwart his desire, I won't come to you, and what does that do? If they refuse to be with him, then he becomes even more clever and more determined to be with them, and that gives rise to extraordinary delight to see how clever Krishna is, and something when he can create a plan and a plot how to overcome the man of Srimati Radhika, and then he does, he becomes so happy, right? So even when Radhika shows man or opposition, it's just to give Krishna an opportunity to show how clever he is. And he takes so much joy in that, right? And they go back and forth. Prem is like that. Prem is something that requires tension and opposition. If the expression of love was always submissive, then it wouldn't be as delightful. It wouldn't be as challenging. It wouldn't be as wonderful. It's not like the opposition of this world, which is self-centered and egocentric, right? Selfish. No. Everything the gopis do, even if it appears that they're opposing Krishna, is to enhance the delight of the pastimes. And so those who understand that and follow in that way, assisting especially Srimati Radhika in her delightful pastimes, they're Rupa Nugas, right? And that goes even beyond the Raga Nugas. So, and Srila Prabhupada, our guru, expressed at his ISKCON, he said, in our ISKCON, we are Rupa Nugas. In fact, one of his very first and very dear disciples, he named Rupa Nuga. Rupa Nuga lives in Alachua. He's still going. Very wonderful person he is. Very devotional person. He was my temple president for just a few months. He came and then he left and went preaching with the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. But very dear to Srila Prabhupada and a very nice person, nice devotee. So, Srila Rupa Goswami described bhakti, pure devotional service, in one verse. And Srila Gurudev has said, many times I heard him ask people about this verse. When he first came to Bangalore, I guess that would be 2005? Yes, 2005. He came and stayed at a newly acquired mat facility, bought and established by one of his disciples, Bhaktivedanta Dandi Maharaj. And we were giving different programs there and a few outside. And he called on me to speak. First time I had spoken in his presence at some kind of program like that. And he said, speak on what is bhakti, right? And he always wanted this verse quoted and explained. And if you couldn't quote the verse, he said, anybody who doesn't know this verse is not my disciple, right? You're like a disciple Abbas. You may be aspiring to be a disciple, but you have to know this verse, because this is the essence of what everything that Rupa Goswami explained. It explains bhakti completely. What it is and what it isn't. And maybe you know the verse, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruit of activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. There are other slightly more extended translations of that, like, performing service without any separate desire, not covered by reward-seeking activity or by philosophical speculation that results in impersonal conceptions, and performed in an unbroken way like a stream of fragrant oil from a jar, and always favorable for Krishna, and done in a mood of deep love, always for Krishna's benefit. And there's actually a book where Gurudev lectures on this verse very deeply. And which is the Damodar Astakam book. And it's very worthwhile to study that. But a summary of that is also in that really nice little book called The Butter Thief. So if you want to read that, you can. Very good, very important. In the first two lines, he showed us what is not bhakti. He also explained Aropa Siddha Bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Anyabhilashita Yukta Bhakti, when bhakti is covered by material designations, and so on. He described all these topics. And this is also elaborated on in that beautiful book where Srila Narayana Maharaj explains the Ramananda Roy Samvad. And when Ramananda Roy was asked by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to explain the goal of life and the process to achieve it, he goes through the different stages that Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita. And prior to hearing and reading that, I just had a very all-inclusive, broad conception of bhakti. It's all bhakti. As long as you're doing it for Krishna, I really didn't understand the necessity for complete freedom of all material designation, material conceptions, and how they enter in and mix your idea of bhakti. So like the idea of a rope siddha bhakti. What is a rope siddha bhakti? What is a rope? It means to designate something as bhakti, but it may not be pure bhakti. And I remember years ago, Prem Prayoja Prabhu gave a very delightful way to remember that. You know, the example of when you are in the dark and you see a rope and you think it's a snake. It's not a snake, it's a rope, right? So bhakti, that's not pure, you may call it bhakti, it's like you call that a snake, but it's not bhakti, it's a rope bhakti. I thought that's quite ingenious. It means that it's mixed with other things, right? Like, come over to my house, we'll have a big feast, you can help me chop down my forest, and it'll all be service to Radhika. No, that's not bhakti, that's service to you, right? And just because devotees are doing it and you're a devotee, it doesn't necessarily mean that's pure bhakti. It's part of your own life and your own interests, right? And so many things like that. So many things we do, like when you're cooking in the kitchen, right? What is your intent? If you're cooking and while you're cooking you're saying, oh boy, this is great. Save some for me. I want, that's my piece right there. You hear that all the time when we're cooking. It may come in your mind, don't let it come to your mouth. And when it comes to your mind, think, oh, Srimati Radhika, only you cook for Krishna. I'm not qualified. I just want to be an assistant of my guru, who's assistant to his guru, whatever cooking. Please, we just want to make it pleasing to the senses of Krishna, that you accept it, that it's fit for him, right? And I can't offer it. I'm offering that my Gurudev will offer it. I just want to assist and make it pleasing to Krishna. Everything we do should be like that. Before you give class, I don't want to give class and be praised by everybody. I'm not going to look around during class and after class. Who's impressed by my, eloquent words and my great capacity for philosophical speculation? I don't want to end class and wait for people to praise me. No. These things come in the mind. What you want is, Gurudev, you've given us such beautiful conceptions. Please let me repeat them properly, as it is. Please let it be pleasing to you. Let it be helpful and beneficial to the devotees, right? That's all. Nothing for me. Everything for Radha and Krishna. Sangha Siddha Bhakti. What do we care for being all these qualities of compassion, mercy, truthfulness, all of that? These are important. A devotee should cultivate them or should have them. But independent of bhakti, they're not bhakti. There are many people who have these qualities, but they're not devotees. And people consider them great saints. But a real saint is what? Saintliness means complete devotion to the Lord, and everything is offered to him. Such that Arjuna on the battlefield will perform something called, completely adharma. Kill Karna while he's off his chariot, doesn't have his weapons. Why? Because Krishna ordered. That is real devotion. From the worldly position, it's called adharma. Yudhishthira was told to lie, to tell Drona that his son, Ashwatthama, was dead. Right? Because only when Drona had no purpose to live and willingly wanted to give up his life could he be killed. Couldn't be killed otherwise. So Krishna said, you have to make him think his son is dead, and then he will give up the battle. Otherwise, we're doomed. He's the leader of the army now. He's killing us all. Yudhishthira couldn't do it. He said, wait, I'm the personification of Dharma. I can't lie. So then Krishna told Bhima to kill this big raging elephant called Ashvatthama. Kill that elephant. Okay, now you can say Ashvatthama is dead. Mm-hmm. And he did. He said, Ashvatthama, the elephant. But when he said the elephant, Krishna had Bhima, because he knew his mind, blow his conch shell so Drona couldn't hear the elephant is dead. He just heard Ashvatthama is dead. Now, when you read commentaries on the Mahabharata, when they describe that, they say, because after that, previously Yudhishthira's chariot never touched the ground. Mm-hmm. It always rode a little bit, above it. Smooth, right? But after that, his chariot descended and touched the ground. And ordinary commentators, moralists, will say because he committed the sin of lying, right? But that's not the reason. The reason is because he couldn't surrender completely to Krishna's desire and order, a much higher conception, right? So pure devotional service means the only consideration is the benefit of Krishna. Even by tying him up, I'm his mother. I'm going to tie him up so he won't be a rascal and a dacoit and he won't run away. Krishna didn't want to be tied up. So he resisted, and his Yogamaya potency made it impossible. The rope's going to get always 2 fingers too short, no matter what she did to add to the rope. Always 2 fingers too short. But finally, his desire was overcome by her pure love. And her pure love was so strong that he had to submit. Right? And that's the secret of pure bhakti. And that's why the gopis are the expression of bhakti in its purest way, because Krishna ultimately submits to them. And this is his highest desire, this is God in his most complete form. In loving relationships with his devotees, their love is so pure and so strong that he submits to them. Remember in the pastime of the gopis performing the Katyani Vrat to get Krishna as their husband, when he finally orders them to come out of the water, completely unclothed, raise their hands above their heads in supplication and prayer, that last step of complete abandonment of all shyness, all morality, all consideration, when they hesitate at that last point, because of the natural appropriate quality of shyness, etc., he says, why am I asking you to do this? This is in Gopal Champu. I want to become submissive to you. So if you become completely submissive to me, then you capture me, and I become completely submissive to you. So that's the mystery of bhakti in the highest, which is revealed in that verse. So I guess we have to stop here. Guess we can read this tomorrow. I do want to complete that Swing Festival song, but let's see, what's today? Wednesday? Mm-hmm. So if we do that Thursday, then we can do that Friday. And then Saturday we can read Baladev Pastimes. We read a lot of Tattva. Didn't read the whole chapter, but we got a lot of foundation. So Saturday we'll set up a program where we do a lot of hearing about Lord Baladev's beautiful pastimes. So we'll continue this tomorrow. We offer our grateful obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Srila Rupa Gosvami Pad, all the followers. Gaur Premanande, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.